Hey everyone, welcome back to Talk Tickers, where we break down earnings calls like nobody else. All right, today we're diving into the world of identity and security with Okta's Q4 FY25 report.
Yeah, this one was a really interesting one. They had some good results.
And some good headlines too, like that bookings record. Okta smashed their previous bookings record, exceeding $1 billion in total contract value.
That's right, exceeding it for the first time.
Yeah, for the first time ever. And RPO shot up a huge 25%, exceeding $4 billion. That's a lot of future revenue.
Well, it is a signal of future revenue. I mean, you have to admit.
Oh, absolutely. A big signal of future revenue. And their sales productivity hit a multi-year high. Those Okta sales teams are doing something, right?
They're firing on all cylinders.
So what's driving this performance? Let's get into the details.
Well, one of the big things is cross-selling both workforce and customer identity products. They've had a lot of success with that. They've also had a lot of success with their newer products, particularly Okta Identity Governance, or OIG.
OIG. I like the sound of that. Tell me more about it.
Well, basically think of granular control over who accesses what in your organization, managing access and permissions, ensuring the right people have the right level of access to the right resources at the right time.
And Okta's doing well with it.
They are, in fact, they've racked up over 1,300 customers and an annual contract value exceeding $100 million in just 2 years.
That's impressive and fast.
And it's not just OIG. When you add in Okta Lifecycle Management and Okta Workflows, their other governance-related products, they're looking at a combined $400 million in annual contract value just in that segment.
It's a pretty big chunk of change, I'd say.
It is definitely a big chunk of change.
All right, so Okta is not just resting on their laurels, they're innovating, they're expanding their offerings. But let's hear what the folks at the top had to say. What were some of the key insights from Okta's leadership?
Well, they really emphasized their transformation into a security-focused company. They're really doubling down on their Okta Secure Identity Commitment, which is all about providing robust security in a world where there's tons of cyber threats.
Makes sense. Security is top of mind for just about every organization these days.
Yeah.
So how are they putting this commitment into action? What are they doing?
Well, they've specialized their go-to-market strategy. They have dedicated sales teams now for Okta and Auth.
Smart, so they can tailor their approach.
Right. It allows them to cater to the needs of both IT and security buyers as well as developers.
All right, so every earnings call is about looking ahead.
Yeah.
Right, so what did Okta have to say about their priorities for FY26?
Yeah, so their priorities, they had 3. First, they want to elevate industry security standards through their Okta Secure Identity Commitment. Second, they're focused on winning in IT and security with the Okta platform. And finally, they aim to continue winning over developers with the Auth platform.
Sounds like a clear vision for growth.
Yeah, very clear.
So let's talk about numbers. What kind of financial outlook did Okta give for the year ahead?
Yeah, so they actually raised their FY26 outlook. They're projecting total revenue growth between 9 and 10%, with a non-GAAP operating margin of 25% and a free cash flow margin of approximately 26%.
Okay, so those are some pretty positive numbers. So what's behind this guidance?
Basically the same things that drove their Q4 success. So strong sales growing adoption of new products and that go-to-market specialization.
Sounds like Okta is making waves, but what are some potential risks or challenges that investors should be aware of?
Well, one of the biggest is probably competition. Okta's the leader in identity and access management, but they aren't the only ones. Companies like Microsoft have tons of resources, and they're constantly trying to improve in the identity space.
It's a competitive market, so Okta needs to stay on top of their game.
They do. They have to keep innovating, and they have to keep delivering exceptional value to their customers.
What else? What other challenges might they face?
Well, integration complexity. Their platform is pretty sophisticated, which is great, but it can also be challenging to implement, particularly for big companies with complex IT systems.
Yeah, it can be a double-edged sword.
It can, and then there's the macro environment that can always impact things.
Of course, how could we forget about that? So how might that impact Okta?
Well, we've seen that economic uncertainty can lead to budget cuts, and that can lead to delays in IT spending. So Okta needs to show the return on investment of their solutions. They have to keep those customers coming.
Right. They have to prove that they're worth the investment.
Exactly, especially when budgets are tight.
All right, so Okta seems to have a lot going for them, but we can't forget about the elephant in the room.
What's that?
Agentic AI.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So tell me, what is the big deal about agentic AI, and what does it mean for Okta?
Well, think of agentic AI as AI on steroids. AI agents acting on behalf of users, doing tasks, making decisions, interacting with systems all on their own.
So very powerful.
Very powerful and potentially very risky.
Yeah, so how does Okta fit into all this?
Well, they're in a good spot to benefit from this trend because of their expertise in managing machine identities.
Okay, so they're not just riding the hype wave.
No, they're not. And in fact, they recently launched a new product called Auth for Gen AI, and it's designed to address those security concerns around AI agents accessing information.
Auth for Gen AI. It's a pretty interesting name, but what does it do?
Basically, it gives you control over what data your AI tools can access. So you can set permissions and grant access to only the data that's absolutely necessary for each AI agent.
It's like a super sophisticated security guard for your AI.
Yeah, that's a good way to think about it.
So it sounds like Okta is not just talking the talk, they're walking the walk when it comes to agentic AI.
They're developing solutions to address real challenges.
So they're a company to watch.
Yeah.
All right, before we move on, it's time for This Is Not Financial Advice.
Everyone's favorite segment.
That's right, where we throw out some wild but plausible trade ideas based on what we've learned.
Always remember, though, this is hypothetical, only for entertainment. Don't make any decisions based on this and always do your own research.
Of course, we're just having some fun. So what's your outrageous but plausible trade idea for Okta?
Well, based on their performance and their guidance in this whole agentic AI thing, I'm thinking a long-term options play could be interesting, buying call options with a long expiration date, betting on their continued growth in the enterprise market and their potential dominance in the agentic AI space.
Okay, so a long-term bet on Okta's continued success. I like it, but why options? Why not just buy the stock?
Options give you leverage. So with a smaller investment, you can control a larger amount of stock, which could lead to bigger gains. But of course, that also means more risk.
High risk, high reward. So you're saying Okta's current valuation doesn't fully reflect their long-term potential?
I think that's right. And if they can become the top solution for securing agentic AI applications, their growth could be huge, and those who bet on them early could do very well.
That's a bold prediction. But it's not totally out there. Okta is already a leader in identity and security, and if they can dominate the agentic AI space, who knows what could happen.
The sky's the limit.
All right, folks, there you have it, a potentially lucrative but speculative trade idea for Okta. But this is not financial advice. Do your own research. Talk to your advisor. Don't blame us if things go wrong.
That's right. We're just sharing ideas and having some fun.
Well said. All right, we're going to wrap up part one of our deep dive into Okta's Q4 earnings call. Stay tuned for part two, where we'll dig deeper into some of the challenges and opportunities facing Okta and explore some other trade ideas.
We'll see you there. Welcome back to Talk Tickers. We're continuing our look into Okta's Q4 FY25 earnings call.
You know, one thing that stood out to me was Okta's focus on the enterprise market. They really seem to be going after those big companies.
Yeah, they definitely see that as a huge opportunity for growth.
Why is that what makes the enterprise market so attractive to them?
Well, for one thing, the deals tend to be a lot bigger, more money involved.
Okay, so bigger contracts make sense. What else?
And a lot of these enterprises, they have these old, complicated identity systems, legacy systems that are just a mess.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. I've seen it firsthand. It's like a bunch of different systems all cobbled together. It's a nightmare to manage.
Right, and that's where Okta comes in. They can replace all those old systems with one streamlined platform.
So one platform for all their identity and security needs.
Exactly. It can handle everything from basic access management to more advanced security features. It's a really attractive solution for big companies who are tired of trying to manage all those different systems.
And Okta's cloud-based architecture gives them a leg up on some of the older companies that are still trying to move their systems to the cloud.
For sure, cloud first is the way to go these days, and Okta is ahead of the game.
Now, earlier we talked about Okta Identity Governance, OIG, and how well it's been doing. Why are so many enterprises interested in this product?
Well, there are a couple of big reasons. First, OIG solves a big problem for large companies. They need to manage access and permissions across a ton of users, applications, and devices, and it's a real headache for them.
It's like trying to keep track of 1 million keys. Each one opens a different door to your most sensitive data.
Exactly, a logistical nightmare. And the second reason is that OIG integrates really well with the rest of the Okta platform. Companies don't want a bunch of different solutions that don't work together. They want one unified system.
Right. It's like having one central nervous system for their whole digital operation.
That's a great way to put it. And that's what Okta is providing with its platform approach. OIG isn't just a standalone product. It's part of a much bigger system.
So let's talk about the people behind Okta for a second. What are your thoughts on their leadership team? Anything stand out to you during this earnings call?
Well, their CEO, Todd McKinnon, He really seems to get at both the technology and the market. He's confident, he's excited, especially about the potential of agentic AI. He really thinks Okta is on the verge of something big. He's got that energy, like they're changing the world. And that can be contagious. Maybe that's part of why their sales teams are doing so well.
Yeah, I think you're right. There's a lot of momentum at Okta. They have a good vision, a strong leadership team, and they're executing well. It's a good combination.
But let's play devil's advocate for a minute. Every company has its weaknesses, right? What are some things that could go wrong for Okta? What should investors watch out for?
Well, even with all the good stuff going on, competition is always a risk. Okta might be the leader in identity and access management, but there are other companies out there like Microsoft. They have a lot of money and they're trying to get bigger in this space.
It's a battle out there, so Okta has to stay on top of things.
Right. They have to keep innovating. They have to keep making sure their customers are happy. What else? Integration complexity. We talked about that their platform is really sophisticated, which is good, but it can also be hard to implement, especially for larger companies.
It's a trade-off.
Yeah, it is. And then, of course, you have to think about the overall economy, the macro environment. All right, the macro environment always lurking in the background.
Yeah.
So how could that affect Okta?
Well, economic uncertainty can lead to budget cuts, and that can mean companies delay spending on IT. So Okta needs to show the value of its products they have to convince customers that it's worth the investment.
They need to prove that they're not just a nice to have, but a must have.
Exactly. They have to make that case, especially when budgets are tight.
So we talked about agentic AI earlier, this technology that everyone seems to be talking about. What are the specific opportunities and challenges that it presents for a company like Okta?
Well, agentic AI could change a lot of industries, but it also brings up some big security questions. As these AI agents become more advanced and more independent, they're going to need secure ways to access information and interact with systems.
It's like giving the keys to your kingdom to a bunch of AI robots. You want to make sure they don't go rogue.
Exactly. And that's where Okta comes in. Their experience in identity and access management and their new product, Auth for Gen AI, puts them in a good position to be the leader in securing these agentic AI applications.
So they're not just securing human users anymore. They're securing AI as well.
Right. They're on the cutting edge of this new area, and they're building the tools that will let companies use the power of agentic AI without all the risks.
All right, let's have some fun and come up with another. This is not financial advice trade idea. Remember, everyone, this is just hypothetical.
Wait, we're just brainstorming. Don't make any investment decisions based on this, and always do your own research.
Of course. So let's get creative. What's your wildest trade idea?
How about this? Instead of just focusing on Okta, what if we go broader and look at a whole basket of companies?
A basket trade. Interesting. Tell me more.
Yeah, we could put together a portfolio of companies that are all going to benefit from the growth of agentic AI. The impact of this technology is going to be huge. It's going to go way beyond just identity and security.
Okay, so we're looking at a wider range of companies all connected to this new AI ecosystem.
Right. We could include cloud providers, data analytics platforms, cybersecurity companies that focus on AI threats, all kinds of things.
It's like investing in the picks and shovels during a gold rush. Everyone needs those tools, no matter who finds the gold.
That's a perfect way to describe it. By diversifying our investments, we can reduce some of the risk that comes with betting on just one company, and we can still take advantage of this big trend.
It's like being a venture capitalist, spreading your bets across a bunch of promising startups in a hot new area.
Exactly. And we could even look at ETFs that focus on AI or cybersecurity that would be a more passive way to invest in this trend.
So lots of different ways to approach it. But again, not financial advice. Do your own research. Talk to your financial advisor before making any moves.
Definitely, we're just throwing out ideas here, having a little fun. It's important to remember that investing always has risks. There are no guarantees.
Well said. Now, before we wrap up part 2 of our Okta deep dive,
Sure.
I want to come back to something that really impressed me during this earnings call. Their commitment to security. It seems like they're really serious about it.
Yeah, it definitely seemed that way.
It's not just something they talk about. They're making security a part of everything they do, their products, their sales strategy, everything.
It's good to see a company that takes security so seriously. They understand that it's not just a technical thing. It's crucial for their business.
Absolutely. And I think that commitment is going to set them apart as agentic AI becomes more important. They're already positioning themselves as the trusted partner for companies that want to use this powerful technology, but don't want to sacrifice security.
They're bridging the gap between innovation and security, which is really important for making sure agentic AI is adopted responsibly.
Well said. Okay, let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll finish up our Okta deep dive with some final thoughts and maybe one more crazy trade idea. Stay tuned. And we're back for the final part of our deep dive into Okta's Q4 FY25 earnings call. And I think you know what time it is.
Time for one last wild trade idea.
That's right. But before we get to that, let's do a quick recap of what we've learned about Okta. I mean, they had an amazing quarter. They really blew past expectations on pretty much every level.
Yeah, they're doing really well. Their revenue is growing. Their new products are gaining traction. Their focus on security is attracting customers.
And they're in a prime position to benefit from the whole agentic AI trend. They seem to be way ahead of the game in developing solutions for the security challenges that come with this new technology.
They're definitely a major player in the identity and security world, but they're not without their challenges. Competition is tough, integration can be tricky, and the macro environment is always unpredictable.
But overall, I'm really impressed with what Okta is doing. They have a clear vision, and they're executing well. They're definitely a company to keep an eye on, but okay, let's have a little fun now and come up with one more trade idea. And remember, everyone, this is just for fun. It's purely hypothetical.
Right, this is not financial advice, so don't go making any investment decisions based on what you hear here. Always do your own research and talk to a financial professional.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're just brainstorming here. All
Yeah.
right. So what's your final outrageous but plausible trade idea for Okta?
Well, instead of focusing on just Okta itself, why not bet on the whole identity and security sector as a whole?
Interesting. So you're thinking like a basket trade, kind of like what we talked about earlier with agentic AI, but this time it's all about identity and security.
Exactly. We could create a portfolio of companies that are all leaders in this space. Okta, obviously, but also other companies in the identity and access management market, cybersecurity companies that provide the infrastructure for secure digital interactions, all kinds of companies.
So we're casting a wider net and trying to capture the growth potential of the whole sector. It's like investing in the picks and shovels during a gold rush, because everyone needs security no matter who strikes gold.
That's a great way to think about it. And by spreading our investments across multiple companies, we can reduce some of the risk that comes with betting on just one company while still taking advantage of this massive trend.
It's like a venture capitalist approach, investing in multiple startups in a hot new area.
Precisely. And there are a lot of different ways to do this. We could buy individual stocks, or we could look at ETFs that focus on cybersecurity or cloud security.
So many options, but again,
Yeah.
This is not financial advice. Do your own research and talk to your financial advisor before making any decisions.
Absolutely. We're just exploring possibilities here. The world of investing is full of exciting opportunities, and it's always good to think outside the box.
Well said. And with that, we come to the end of our deep dive into Okta's Q4 FY25 earnings call. And we hope you found this episode informative and entertaining.
It was a lot of fun breaking down this earnings call and coming up with some crazy trade ideas.
And that's all for this episode of Talk Tickers. We'll be back next week with another deep dive into a different company and sector. So stay tuned for more insights, more analysis, and of course, more outrageous trade ideas. Until then, happy investing, everyone.